This will be America's new golden age. It's going to happen quickly, too, very quickly.
Welcome to the Be Wise podcast. I'm your host, Chris Wright, where we discuss politics, entertainment, social media, and sports. So it's Friday. It's the week that was, and boy, was it crazy. I already did an episode about the election results and what it means, but I want to talk about the reaction. The reaction has been absolutely crazy. Crazy, I tell you. And the left are freaking out. There's like mass hysteria in the streets. I don't know how long it's going to take to subside, but I do know that I just really pray for them. And I pray that their mental condition stabilizes at some point, because their heads are exploding. Conservatives are running, not walking, running to shows like The View, MSNBC, just to see the hysteria, the fear, the loathing, the hatred, the intolerance, the divisiveness of the left. And there's a lot of humor involved. I have been nonstop on TikTok, just trying to just understand the craziness of the left, their fears, and like why they think that the world is coming to an end. It's not like Donald Trump has never held this position before. He was a president before. We're still here. We're not living in a post-apocalyptic America since his presidency. Things were pretty good. As I always tell people, I wasn't always a Donald Trump supporter or fan. I did not like the guy. I didn't even like him when he was a celebrity. I thought he was pompous, arrogant, ego-driven, an attention seeker. But I tell people now, I said, man, I like this guy because maybe that's what we need. We need that brashness in government. We need that brashness in the White House. He won't be kicked around. He won't be pushed around. Like, he says it, he means it. Promises made, promises kept. But let's have some fun today. I'm going to be sharing a lot of clips that, I don't know. But I'm going to be sharing a lot of clips to just show the temperature, the measurement of the hysteria. And I just had a lot of fun compiling some of this. But let's start with some of the pre-election sentiment. Like, the left really thought they were going to win. They were confident. They were like teasing people in the streets, saying, we're going to win. And they were laughing. There was a lot of arrogance, and a lot of right-wingers just like, yeah, whatever, Trump 2024, just like doing their thing, saying their piece. And so we had this lady, I call her Champagne Lady. And she was quite entertaining.
Okay, so we're closing in on almost 5 p.m. Eastern time, and I've been tracking everything that's been going on across the country today. And my most important encounter was when I went out to get my champagne. I was talking to the guy in the store, of course, asking him, did he vote? And he said he did early voting, and he asked me if I early voted. And he asked me, why I was getting the champagne. And I said, because I'm going to be toasting Madam President tonight. And he just looked at me with kind of like a smirk on his face. And I said, she's going to win this, right? And he says, oh, well, it's very, very close. And I said, no, it's not. He says, well, what do you mean? I said, no, it's not. The women of America are making their voices heard. Reproductive rights is what it all comes down to. And the women are voting in numbers relative to men that are unbelievable. She's won this. And I said to him, she's going to take every one of the swing states plus Iowa. And he said, oh, but the numbers are so close. I said, I'm a political analyst. I'm telling you right now, the numbers are there. She's taking this election. And then I said to him, you realize, and he didn't tell me who he voted for, but of course I knew. And I said, you do realize you wasted your vote, right? And I didn't care. And I walked out with my bottle of champagne and happily walked home. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye to you. I'm a political analyst. See the arrogance, the bravado. She was just so confident. Trump won all the swing states, by the way. She was 100. I wonder where she is today. Now, I was watching the Megyn Kelly show, and Megyn Kelly, I think she had a post clip of her. And you know what she said? Well, first of all, she said it all boils down to reproductive rights. She thought Kamala was going to win on a single issue. A single issue. Well, didn't turn out like that, but I so want to see her today. Anyway, so Megyn Kelly had a post video of the same lady. And you know what she said? It's such a shame that America is so misogynistic. And Kamala didn't win because she was a woman. And Kamala didn't win especially because she was a Black woman. More liberal tears, more wokeness. And it came down to a single issue, reproductive rights. And again, Trump won all the swing states. The electoral vote count this morning was 301 to 222. He has over 73 million votes compared to like 65 million Kamala votes or whatever it is. So I guess it did not come down to reproductive rights. I guess it did not come down to that. But I just would love to see her today. So that was pre-election. And then there was post-election hysteria. Again, we are going to talk about reproductive rights later in this segment, but I want to show you. I pulled this from Candace Owens because, I love Candace. And she basically had this video again from TikTok, but I could have just pulled it from TikTok, but I pulled hers because I love her facial reactions when she's watching. There's actually a TikTok page called Candace Reacts. Follow it. And it's all these issues that's going on throughout the country with the top being Candace and the bottom being the content. And her facial expressions are priceless. So here's some of the mass hysteria and what I'm seeing on Facebook and everywhere else post-election.
How did we get here? How did we get here? What in the Alice in Wonderland nightmares is going on right now? All I can say is how dare you? If you voted for that man, if you voted for anybody other than Kamala and you live in one of the states that it was, close, or if you didn't vote, you.
Senate race. It's not going to happen. Republican Kevin
Go Kamala.
will be returning to the Senate.
I chose family. I chose women. I chose America. I love you.
How the is this still happening? All I've ever known politically is hatred.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with you and your mother and your sister. I'm just done with all of this.
I'm sorry to all my friends who are Trump supporters. But you don't understand how scared of this man I am.
It is not pretty out there, my friends. It is not pretty, but we are here for them.
We are here for them. I genuinely care about them. But I want to talk to you about the fact that I spend most of my time on TikTok, X, and Truth Social. If you don't follow Truth Social and you voted for Donald Trump, you want that app on your phone because you get the news there before you see it anywhere else. It's Donald Trump's social media website or app. And so any news like, the him selecting the first female presidential chief of staff, White House chief of staff in history, that will go to Truth Social. Then X will pick it up and all the news outlets will pick it up. So go to Truth Social, put that app on your phone if you are a supporter of Donald Trump. But Facebook. So I don't go on Facebook much. I go to post things about my business. Every now and then I'll just try and post some humor, family pictures. And yesterday I was trying to unify. I was just, listen, hey, 51% of the American voters, probably more than 51% now, selected the guy who they wanted. America speaks. This is why we have voting. You can't really want the minority voters to win. Like, that's just not the way it works. We have an electoral system. So California and New York and other states don't select who our president is. So the electoral college works. Rosie O'Donnell made a TikTok yesterday saying, maybe we should get rid of the electoral college. Well, in this case, you still would have lost. Donald Trump won the popular vote. He won the electoral vote. We won the Senate. We won the House. Red wave. That was a serious red wave. Back when I was a Democrat and I was a liberal, we always heard about blue wave, the blue wave. And I think only one time did I ever see a blue Congress, a blue Senate, the White House, popular vote. I don't know if it's ever happened. But it was during the Obama administration. That's the only time. And we did nothing with all that power. You can best believe that Donald Trump's going to do something with all this support and power. And he only has 4 years to do it. And then JD Vance will take over, hopefully. But Facebook is unhinged. Oh my God. I said something very unifying in 2 posts. I was like, listen, let's stop attacking each other. Let's stop, coming after one another. Due process was done. And it is what it is. And if you don't like something, change it in 4 years. But even within the 4 years, we have a midterm, and you can vote out people who you don't like, who represent your state or represent you locally. So we do have a process, and it works. It works. But if you look on Facebook, you would literally think the world's coming to an end. But I was attacked. I was called names. I pray for your daughters. I pray for your wife. I don't even understand. Again, we're going to talk about reproductive rights in a second. But I don't understand where all the hysteria is from. How could you be Black and vote for Trump? How could you be a woman and vote for Trump? How could you be a good husband and not support your daughters and your wife? And I don't even understand all these rights that are being stripped from women. 45% of women voted for Donald Trump. They voted against their best interests. I would love to see the numerical value in numbers and count of how many people voted, women-wise, for Donald Trump. If you're gay, how could you vote for Donald Trump? It just makes no sense. But anyway, I took the Facebook app off my phone so I wouldn't be tempted to go back in there and take more abuse. I didn't delete or deactivate my account. If I want to go on the computer, I'll go on, because I do use it for business. I want to go on, I want to post something, I'll get the hell out of there. And sometimes I do like to troll people. Sometimes I can be petty. But I just don't understand the outright righteousness, the arrogance, the moral high ground of the left telling 73 million people that they're wrong. Kamala was anointed. She was put in, you didn't vote for her to be your president. The DNC did. They gave you someone and said, hey, yeah, how about this person? And you said, okay, she's good. And you didn't want her because she ran for president before and she got pounced out in the first round. She had single digits in the polls. And then they threw that same person back at you. And you said she was going to be your savior. Shame on you. And then as far as the gay population, the LGBTQ community, you said, if you can't be gay and vote for Donald Trump. And that was wrong. Here's Ellen DeGeneres came out, who's been gay for a long time, as far as I know. She's seen homophobia way before we start passing laws to protect same-sex marriage, rights for gays, domestic partnerships. She was gay way before that. She came out on her television show. Listen to what this guy has to say.
That if you have gay people in your life, you are not allowed to vote for Trump because he's gonna hurt them. As a gay person myself, it confuses me how so many gay people, like Ellen, still hold on to this delusional belief that Trump is somehow anti-gay. As a reminder, after Trump won in 2016, this was the situation. And what did Republicans do about gay marriage? Nothing. And the Trump administration launched a global effort to end the criminalization of homosexuality in places like, I don't know, Palestine. Thank God for this top comment from a sane gay person, calling her out for how delusional of a take this is. Love and inclusion versus hate and violence? Was it hate and violence for life to be affordable? Was it hate and violence not to be involved in multiple global conflicts at the same time? It's just disappointing to see an old school gay like Ellen be this easily brainwashed into believing that Trump is somehow homophobic. Because, girl, you've seen real homophobia. You lived through it. Like, I came out in 2010, 5 years before gay marriage would even be legalized. I grew up in the rural American South. I too have seen real homophobia, and therefore I can recognize that Trump is not real homophobia. And I would expect someone like Ellen to also be able to recognize that.
Yeah. I mean, I loved when, Trump's in office, we're going to lose our rights. Women, we're going to be set back to the dark ages. All the misogyny is going to come back. People are going to be emboldened to disrespect women. None of that happened during the last administration when Trump was in office. In fact, like this gentleman just said, he advanced it. He made it a hate crime, basically. He tried to extend those rights to other countries. So what are they talking about? So I want to talk about reproductive rights a little bit. Now, before I start, I have always treaded lightly on the subject of abortion because no one in my family that I know of has gotten one, so I didn't have an opinion on it. And I mean my daughters and my wife. And to me, it's a woman's issue. It is a woman's issue. But there's something that's going on with it because if we're being clear, Donald Trump did not ban federally abortions. He said I would never do that. Donald Trump has a lot of women in his life, wife, grandchildren, lots of women in his cabinet, lots of women who has worked for him. They're in his ear. The only thing he did was go to the Supreme Court and say, listen, this abortion issue is a lot. In 2022, there was like mass protests. And he said, I don't think this should be a federal issue. I want to put it back in the hands of the states like it was prior to 1973 or whenever it was. I don't want to deal with it as a president. Let the states handle it. And right here, I want to show you something. Here you go. So right here, it said that in 2022, Alito's draft decision called the road decision egregiously wrong from the start. Okay. On the grounds that abortion is not listed in the United States Constitution as a protected right, and instead would allow states to decide on abortion restrictions or guarantees under the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution. And the 10th Amendment basically says that, it basically says, where is it at? So the 10th Amendment basically says it expresses the principle of federalism, also known as states' rights, by stating that the federal government has only those powers delegated to it by the Constitution, and that all other powers not forbidden to the states by the Constitution are reserved to each state or to the people. There are so many Americans who no longer want to believe in the Constitution. They want us to throw it away. Hence why in my desk drawer, just in case I'm ever confused, I keep a copy of the Constitution. So when I hear rhetoric or when I hear protests, I go in this book and I go, what's the Constitution say? You can get this very easily on Amazon for like $3.99. It should be a copy in every household. I also have a copy of the Declaration of Independence that I keep and the Constitution. You can get this on Amazon for like $2.99. Cost you nothing, but it will make you a smarter person. And whenever you're undecided on whether you agree with the stance or don't agree with the stance, you can very quickly just go to that book and go, oh, this is what the Constitution says. I always tell people our framers wrote things down for us. They gave us a blueprint on how to move forward. So it really doesn't make any sense for us to argue and bicker about what's constitutional, because people always go, that's unconstitutional. And I go, how do you know? How do you know? You don't. So anyway, that's my stance on abortion and Roe v. Wade. I don't have a horse in the race, but I always go back to what does the Constitution say? And why was it put in place in the first place? And why was it overturned? I think in 1973, I could have the year wrong, a lady was having her third child. She wanted to have an abortion. In the state of Texas, it was illegal. So she went to her lawyers to fight it. And the lawyers had to find precedents or create precedents on why Texas was wrong. And then they wanted to take it to the federal government. And the federal government, in the wake of women's liberation, found Texas ruling or found Texas decision to be unconstitutional. Well, it was unconstitutional in the first place, but they made it unconstitutional because the Supreme Court, and they won 7-2 after these lawyers got together and this woman got together and decided whether or not she could abort this third child. If you Google Roe v. Wade and pull up the Wikipedia page, it could be 100 pages of information. And people boil that down to reproductive rights. Like I said, I really don't have an opinion on it. I'm not sanctimonious. I'm not, I don't have this high moral ground where I say abortion is wrong, abortion is right, pro-life, pro-choice. That's not my thing. My whole argument is whether it's constitutional or not. That's all. Whether it's constitutional or not. So, and that's where I think we need to look. I think we need to look at Donald Trump saying, I want it out of federal government's decisions. Let the states take it. And when people say, I'm being stripped of my reproductive rights, no, you are not. If your state doesn't allow it, then go to another state. Now, personally, I don't know the rules of that. I don't know if that means if you're a resident of Texas and you go to New York for an abortion, can you be arrested in Texas? I haven't deep dived into the minutia of that, but that's something to think about, and that's something that we could take to the courts after, if that's really a problem. I don't know if it is. It may not be. I don't know if you can cross state lines. If you live in Texas and you want to go to Louisiana, it might be legal there and illegal and whatever. But my point is, do your research, figure it out. The bigger problem that I have is that the reasons why, because now when it was a federal issue, then we got into arguments about early term, late term, when is life conceived, third trimester, first trimester, inception. If I was a president, I just wouldn't want to deal with that. And now I understand why Trump goes, you know what, this shouldn't even be a federal. I got too much stuff to deal with. I don't want to decide when life begins. I mean, the Vatican got involved, and it all came down to opinion. It really did. The Constitution is not opinion. That's the great part about government. It's written down. So, which brings me to women's reaction on reproductive rights and abortion and how they're going to move forward. There's some good that's coming out of this. And the good that's coming out of this is personal choices, behavior, and how women are going to move forward. So there's something called the 4B movement. The 4B movement. And I have two ladies from TikTok who are going to explain it to you. And they're going to add some absurdity to it and humor to it, because it just doesn't make sense. Now that our reproductive rights have been stripped, I'm going to behave. I'm going to abstain. I'm not going to have casual sex anymore. Screw men.
Apparently, in response to Donald Trump winning, a lot of liberal women are now joining the 4B movement. And I just learned what this was. And boy, is it ironic. You don't know what it is? Let me catch you up. Some women are saying that they're going to start using protection, which is worrisome, by the way, so that they don't have to worry about having kids. Others are just going to start refusing to have intimate relationships with men who don't love and respect them, who aren't there looking for a future. That's what we've been saying this entire time. Not only is refusing to have children going to help future generations, because the next generation of children is all going to be raised by conservatives. The children will be conservative. But no one's mad about this. Hookup culture was a lie that was sold to women and mainly benefits men while disparaging women's mental health. The only men that are going to be mad about this are the men that were supporting abortion so that they would have no responsibility to you or a child. The men that were just planning on using you for your body. And it doesn't matter if they're Republican or a Democrat. This is good for you. Consequences of this will be a generation of men who are going to have to learn how to treat and respect a woman. And it's kind of what conservative women have been saying this entire time. But I'm glad this is happening.
So now women are going to behave. They're going to make better choices. But it took Donald Trump being elected for them to realize that. Let's see what Dana has to say.
You can't make this stuff up. In 2022, the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, and they left it up to each state individually to decide whether or not abortions are legal in that state. Somehow, you emotional, most educated women are online putting out PSAs talking about, oh my God, now that Trump in office, we're going to have to implement the 4B movement and stop sleeping with these men. Or if we do, we got to be on some type of contraceptives, ladies. Or we got to make sure we use a protection. Excuse me? It took for him to get in office for you to be doing something you should have been doing in the first place. You telling me it took him to get in office for you to practice sexual discipline? What's wrong with y'all? Are you okay? Are you okay? And again, let's recap. This is something that was overturned by the Supreme Court. This has nothing to do with Trump, right? Nothing to do with him. I'm in full agreement that women should have control over their body and what they do with it. But what I'm not in agreement with, Jason, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, is you out here catching all these bodies and then going down to the clinic and then getting this asmortion because you don't want no baby by Pookie, right? Y'all out here abusing asmortions. No, I'm not in agreement with y'all abusing it because it's supposed to be the very last option, but y'all are using it as the first. Right? You out here smashing all these different dudes. And then when you decide that you don't want no baby by said dude, then you going down here to the clinic and getting it taken care of. That's not cool.
So I love Dana, by the way. A lot of people don't, but I do. But she's right. Now you're going to make better personal choices. You're going to like suddenly start using contraceptives. You're going to start abstaining. You're not going to be on Tinder, just hooking up. You're not a proud hoe. And why did I say proud hoe? Because Candace Owens was on this panel with hoes, proud hoes. Did you know there was such a thing as a proud hoe? This is a group of women say, yeah, I'm a hoe. And they have a podcast and everything. And Candace Owens went on that show and she wanted to understand. But the whole thing is that this 4B movement, and I don't know what the number means or what the B means. Someone's going to have to tell me that. If you know what that means, put it in the comments. But let me understand what 4B movement means. But yeah, I remember when Tinder first came out and a lot of my single male friends were on Tinder. And I was like, what's this Tinder all about? And a really good friend was on Tinder every night, getting a different piece of ass every night. And I was like, what is, you know, it's a place you hook up. You just go on Tinder, you meet girls that are local and y'all smash. Like you hook up, meet at a hotel, they come to your apartment, whatever. And it's like, it was that easy. Like I remember when I was in my 20s and before, whatever, and I wanted to hook up, it could be a 3-week process. One night stands were called one night stands because it was hard to do. But with hoe culture, with Tinder culture, it was just like, nah, I can hook up. And people just went on the app and found somebody where you live. Oh, I only live 2 miles from you. I'll see you in 10 minutes. And they had some drinks at a bar. And next thing you know, they were at the dude's apartment. But watch this hoe culture.
We're a trending topic, so it's relevant to speak on.
Because it's interesting.
Wait, what?
It's fascinating. I am fascinated by hoes. I'll say it. I'm absolutely fascinated by the way the hoe mind works, the way the hoe hive works. I'm fascinated.
Next
I cover it
documentary.
on my show. You are correct. It is trending.
And that's why
when
it's such a
Emma
hot
gets
topic
up
to
and does a
speak about.
video and says something like, you know, it's chic to be divorced before you're 30. It is absolutely fascinating to see how someone's mind can be so warped. You know, in the same way that I think it's fascinating when anybody does anything crazy or says anything crazy, and I cover it on my podcast. You know, I am not knocking it at all. I just tell people what the facts are. You can choose this lifestyle, and here is where you are 99.9% likely to lead in your life, right? You are probably not destined for marriage. You're probably not destined for a stable relationship. Men are going to not want this long term. You can say it 1,000 times. You can have 1,000 cultural examples, and women's still got to go out there and be hoes, you know, because they're about their money and about a Cardi B song or whatever it is. So yes, I think it is fascinating.
They didn't expect that. They thought when she said, oh no, I love hoes. I'm fascinated by hoes. They thought she was going to say, you do you, boo. But that's not what she said. She was saying that it was a spiraling, degenerative lifestyle. So, I love Candace. Candace, like, she always drops science and she doesn't run away from a fight. She does not hide. So anyway, yeah, so that's my thought on women being stripped of rights, reproductive rights. Someone said on Facebook, I hope your daughters are never raped or incest. Whatever. I trust the women that voted for Donald Trump. I trust the women are intelligent, intellectual, are informed voters, who care about our country, who care about the borders, immigration, tax cuts, U.S. manufacturing, the economy, inflation, all that kind of good stuff. I trust that women voted for that. And they worried about their own bodies because they own them and they can make the right decisions for their bodies, whether it's abstinence or contraceptives or being in responsible relationships. Yeah, when to avoid, guys like Nick Cannon and Cam Newton who want 9 children and 7 baby mamas, and women who depend on child support and ultimately depend on abortions when they realize that I don't have a man, but I let that guy knock me up. So, so I also want to talk about Black voting, because I did a TikTok this morning and I talked about how Black voters always say, and this is for people who strictly vote on identity. I don't look at the world through a racial lens, and nor am I'm not a race idolater. I try not to look at things through black and white. I just want a good president. I want good leaders, and I don't care what their colors are. Some of my favorite and best leaders are white, like Simon Sinek. I love him. John Maxwell. And, when I choose presidents, I want them to follow the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and protect my rights. And most of all, protect free speech. That's it. But you do have a large segment of society who are Black, and all they can see is Black faces or people with a little bit of melanin in their skin. All you need is one drop and they're on board. And this is how we got Barack Obama. This is how we got Kamala Harris, because they had a drop. They looked Black. Kamala Harris went to an HBCU. She was an AKA. Barack Obama was a community organizer in Chicago, was close friends with Reverend Wright, who almost got his ass burned. But, and even after the Reverend Wright rhetoric, white people still voted for Barack Obama. They didn't even ask him to run away from Reverend Wright. They just said, I'm still voting for him. And then Blacks voted for him, of course, because he had some melanin in his skin. Even though he was raised in Indonesia and Hawaii and had white grandparents and mixed mother and father. It didn't matter. Just the one drop. That's all it takes. My point was, if you really, really are if it's that important to you to have a Black president and Black leadership in politics, then why don't you actually seek out someone who has a Black mother and a Black father, but who's conservative? Because the Electoral College shows you, the popular vote showed you that we don't care what color you are, as long as you have conservative values, as long as you're going to protect our rights, we'll vote for you. There's no racism in that. It all comes down to policies. If you read Agenda 47, I don't care if the devil himself wrote the Agenda 47, it made sense to me. But then, of course, you have The View, and you have people, Black women like Sunny Hostin, who's privileged, who a federal prosecutor, and daughter goes to Harvard and lives in $1 million mansion and all that. She's going to come out and tell us, what she thinks was good for Black people. And like I said, I reject it and I steer away from it. And that's what Black conservatives do. And I pray that there's more of us coming. And this election gave me hope. But here's Sunny Hostin waxing poetic about what this election means to her and Black people and women.
Yeah.
It was pretty red last night.
I don't know. I'm profoundly disturbed. I think if you look at the New York Times this morning, the headline was America makes a perilous choice. I think that in 2016, we didn't know what we would get from a Trump administration, but we know now. And we know now that he will have almost unfettered power. And so I worry, not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class. I worry about my mother, a retired teacher. I worry about our elderly and their Social Security and their Medicare. I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have. And I remember my father telling me many, many years ago that I was the first person in his family to enjoy full civil rights. And now I have less civil rights than I had when he told me that. So again, I'm profoundly disturbed that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution did not prevent someone who participated in an insurrection from becoming president of the United States. I think that going forward, the convicted felon box on employment applications better be taken off, because if you can be the president of the United States, then you should not be prevented from employment in this country, because I remember applying for my jobs as a federal prosecutor, and there was a box for convicted felons.
Well,
and so that box better be taken off. And I think our healthcare system is now at risk. I think
no fluoride for anyone.
Yeah, economists have made clear that he's going to increase the debt by $7.75 trillion. I'm worried about mass deportation and internment camps, and I'm also worried about Elon Musk warning Americans to prepare for temporary hardship. I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. Mm-hmm. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Well, I think.
You see how she broke that down? A woman of color married to a Jewish man. See, it's all about race and identity to some of these people. And she said, I don't think it came down to policy. It all came down to policy, Sonny. It all came down to policy. That's how Donald Trump was elected, because it was all about policy. It wasn't about race. It wasn't about race. We've proven that before. So you were talking about how you worry about the poor and the middle class. You worry about all these different people. Do you? Do you really? Because I don't believe you. I think when you're up in your mansion and you sipping on your herbal tea, you don't think about us at all. I really don't. You worry about your daughter who's lost rights. What rights did you lose, Sonny? What rights have your daughters lost? Can I see the document? Can you mail it to me? Email it to me? Fax it to me? I want a list of the rights that we lost by Donald Trump being president. Send it to me. I'm open for it. I'm here for it. And I'll tell you whether I believe you or agree with you or not. So just full of it, man. Just full of it. And then the officer Tatum talked about how we as Black people want our vote to be counted, but do we really? Because when you vote based on color and identity, you basically just throw it away. There's no diversity in the Black community. It's like, is she Black? I put the word out. Paul Revere ran around all the Black communities and said, yep, she's Black. She passed the Black test. One drop is in her of Blackness. So we all got to vote for her. And if you don't vote for her, you're an Uncle Tom. We will rebuke you if you're Black and you don't vote for this person. But yet, the Hispanics, they have diversity in their voting. Whites have diversity in their voting. I don't want to tell the whole thing. Let Officer Tatum explain it.
Right. This is what saddens me. Why, people? You got up here, you got white men, white women, they went 50+% for Donald Trump. You go to Black, think about this just for starters. It's not 100% white men. It's not 80% white men. It's 57 and 51 white women. That means that there's a level of diversity here, because it's 46% went for Harris, 39% of white men went to Harris. That, even though I don't agree with nobody that voted for Harris, you can bump your head somewhere. But at least you see a level of diversity that typically does not exist when you start going right here. Right? You look at Black men, 73% to 23% for Trump. What are you doing? You go down here, Black women, 88% for 9%. I'm finna bring this home in a minute. Latino men, 51%, 45. That's diversity. Although they went to Harris, that's diverse. 60% Latino women to Harris, 30%. That's diversity. White people swung towards Republicans, Hispanics swung towards Democrats, but it's still diverse. Even in the other category, It went to Harris, but it's diverse. What are y'all doing? This is zero diversity. But this is the scary part that I think everybody needs to understand. This is the scary part. They won in a landslide. Republicans won in a landslide with y'all votes being like this. You got black women, only 9% voted. Let's go, 88% voted Democrat and still lost in a landslide. 73% of black men, and they still lost by a landslide. Give it 15 more years, and you can vote 100% for Democrats and still lose. Your vote is irrelevant. When they go and start campaigning next time, they don't have to go here at all to spend any money.
At all.
They gonna go right here to Latinas because they only have a few position points that can swing them over to the Republican side. They got a few points here that can swing them to the Republican side. And if you were to swing the Latino man and Latino woman, you will be in an even bigger landslide.
You're making it so your vote doesn't count because you're only voting for melanin. And melanin has no place in voting. There's no black representative, be it local or federal, that's going to help you because you're black. None. History has proven it. Barack Obama did 8 years. And what did all these black people say after his term ended? He ain't do nothing for black people. He ain't do nothing for black people. They didn't even appreciate it. You overwhelmingly, probably 98% voted for Barack Obama. He ain't do nothing for black people. Now you're all mad. You're all in your feelings because he became president of the United States, not president of the black community. All right. We're gonna get out of here in a second. I just wanted to do a couple things. The other day I had talked about how Kamala Harris had all those people out there supporting her at Howard University campus. And then when the results came in, she went home and went to bed. And she had to wait till the next day to speak to that group. But they're all gone home now. I don't know if they reconvened, but I do know they were out there in full strength to support her. And even in a loss, was waiting for her to come out and give a speech. And I can't do it. I just can't do it. And she went home and went to bed. The sadder part of that is that she didn't have a concession speech prepared. Funny how Donald Trump won and his writers already had a speech prepared. And if Donald Trump had lost, he would have had a speech prepared. It might not have been a concession speech, but he would have had a speech prepared. So Kamala Harris waited till the next day. And all her writers could do was go, what did Hillary say? And then take Hillary's speech, doctor it up, remix it with a little wicca-wicca, blackified it a little bit, and hand it to Kamala Harris and go, here. Now, did they tell her, here's what Hillary said in 2016? Probably not. But they just handed her the speech. So if they were going to do that, they could have did that on ChatGPT the night of the election and handed it to her. And I would have looked at her in a better light. I would have gave her an ounce of respect. Watch this TikTok.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for.
This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for.
Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition.
Last night, I congratulated Donald Trump and offered to work with him on behalf of our country.
For the record, Hillary Clinton went to work to have him impeached, is what she did right away. I just wanted to point that out.
Over the 107 days of this campaign, we have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background.
We've spent a year and a half bringing together millions of people from every corner of our country to say with one voice that we believe that the American dream is big enough for everyone.
To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed, but please know it's going to be okay.
To the young people in particular, I hope you will hear this.
On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win.
This loss hurts, but please never stop believing that fighting for what's right is worth it.
So she basically took Hillary Clinton's speech, doctored it up, blackified it, Kamalaized it, and ChatGPT'd it, and came out and said the same speech as Hillary did. You know what's amazing? It's just like when she did that whole thing where she gave one speech to the Jews and gave another speech to the Arabs. And then here she stole Hillary's speech. And then, does she not know that there's such thing as an internet, an interweb, Google, a social media? That's twice within a week's time that she's been caught copying, plagiarizing, giving mixed messages. I don't understand her. And we should be thankful that she didn't win, because our whole candidacy would have been a fraud. A fraud. She just wasn't ready for the moment. She wasn't ready for the moment. And I will end with Donald Trump talking about where we're going.
This will be America's new golden age. It's going to happen quickly, too, very quickly. Every problem facing us can be solved, but now the fate of our nation is in your hands.
So the golden age. So as soon as he said that, I saw a bunch of TikToks and X's and Instagram posts. Ooh, the golden age, back when we were in chains. Ooh, the golden age, back when we didn't have women's rights. The golden age, back when gays weren't. That's not what the golden age means, people. That's not what the golden age means. I'm going to show you what the golden age means. If you don't mind, I'd just love to share it with you. So the golden age, by extension, golden age denotes a period of primordial peace, harmony, stability, and prosperity. During this age, peace and harmony prevailed, and that people did not have to work to feed themselves, for the earth provided food in abundance. Why would you be scared of that? Were you thinking about the Gilded Age? Because the Gilded Age was a little bit different. There's a TV show on HBO called The Gilded Age. There's also a documentary done by the History Channel called The Gilded Age. And it was the late 1800s. And the Gilded Age was a little bit different. It was a little bit different. I'll share that with you. The Gilded Age was also an era of poverty, especially in the South, and growing inequality as millions of immigrants poured into the United States, and the high concentration of wealth became more visible and contentious. That was the Gilded Age. There was only a handful of very wealthy people. The disparity between poor and rich or wealthy was huge. So he said the golden age. He talked about prosperity. He talked about harmony and peace. So all that said, that's a good segue for me to go. Peace.